What's up, y'all? I'm Vince Redden, and we are back with some fresh off the clock this week. Before we dive into the interview with the founder of ESPN, Bill Rasmussen, I do want to say first, for one, Kevin Sizemore, thank you. From everybody here at Fresh Off the Clock, man. What a surreal time that was and is, as you are about to see. And also, a quick word from our sponsor for this video, Royal Fades Barbershop in Princeton on Thorn Street.
Royal Fades Barbershop, located at 316 Thorn Street, Princeton, West Virginia. Open from 8 to 6, Monday through Friday. Book an appointment on Facebook or through the Cut app. Stop in to see Sweats the Barber because he puts the drip on ya.
Hi, I'm Chris Berman. If you're under, say, 35 years of age, you're saying, what do you mean we don't get 300 stations? Well, in the 70s, ancient history, what was cable TV? One man, visionary, 24 hours of sports on TV. He was told it'll never work. Just like a few years before that, man will never walk on the moon. Wrong and wrong. Bill Rasmussen was right. ESPN is an idea that'll work. Boy, has it ever. 30 plus years later, we're everywhere. But how did we really begin? Only Bill Rasmussen can take you back to the beginning of the greatest success story in the history of sports television. His ideas, yes, his enthusiasm, his fierce determination and belief in success changed the way we all watch television and the way we watch sports today. And I ought to know he did it with a smile, every bit of it. Ladies and gentlemen, our George Washington, Bill Rasmussen.
What's up, y'all? I'm Big Fred, and we are back with some fresh off the clock. We have some guests with us. Obviously, to my side here, we have Cody. But this week's guest is the father of cable sports, the founder of ESPN, an award-winning author, an entrepreneur at every level and aspect of the word, Bill Rasmussen. Let's give him a round of applause here today.
Thanks very much, guys. Good to be with you.
Yes, sir, Bill. Appreciate you taking the time on now. Before we do get too deep into this, I know you've been asked 1,000 times. Can we hear the opening line from you on launch night?
Oh, sure. That's an easy one. I thought you were going to have a tough question there. If you're a fan, what you'll see in the next minutes, hours, and days to follow may convince you you've gone to Sports 7. Beyond that blue horizon lies a world of sports. And right now, you're standing on the edge of tomorrow. Sports, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from ESPN, the Total Sports Cable Network.
The chills. The chills.
Chills.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it, Bill. Whew.
Well, just before that, standing in the control room, there were a lot of nervous people. I mean, it was really packed. And to hear the director, young man, turn around and tell all these executives from all these high-ranking places, quiet, 1 minute to air, no noise, please. He's commanding everybody.
He's commanding everybody, taking control.
From the time we started to this very day, everything has had to be that way. You say you're going to do it at such and such in so many seconds, that's when you're going to do it. And obviously now they have 6 or 8 networks that are around the globe with so many things. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now, Bill, I do want to take you back some here. Obviously, your grandfather, Fred, was a big White Sox fan.
Yep, he was indeed.
And he actually seen all 6 games live of the only Chicago World Series, all Chicago, back in 1906. Now, was that kind of the fuel that got you just instilled in being
from the time that I was born in 1932, and from the time we could talk, he kept talking about baseball. I just grew up hearing baseball, White Sox, Comiskey Park, and don't ever go to Wrigley Field. Don't go see those nasty Cubs. So yeah, that started my interest, and I started playing. back then, I don't know what it's like today, but we had softball fields and baskets around the elementary schools. We didn't have big classes because we were living on the far south side of Chicago, and all the little towns were popping up. Today, most of them are big towns, but I mean, the biggest town around us had only 3,500 people. That was the whole population, and we were in the unincorporated part of that. So it was just one of those things. Baseball became the it game, and away we went.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That is
sir.
cool.
That's itself.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So just kind of like talking about history with you like that, you know what I mean? Like, the Cubs winning the World Series. What I think it was a couple years later, maybe 10 years later, was it?
I think it was just the very next year. I think
Was it the very next year?
I
Back to
think
back for the city.
that's
Yeah.
it. I had that information in my book here that you talked about before.
Yeah.
A couple of books on Amazon. You can go find those, but I've got all the data in there from the start of each of the leagues, Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, and everything, along with comments where I was involved and about broadcasting, where back in the late 1930s and 40s, early 40s, the owners did not want to even allow radio because they felt it would keep people away. Since then, they've gotten the new idea. Now they get billions in rights fees every
Mhm.
year.
Right. Which I understand,
Right.
like the logical thinking of that. Like, if I can just sit at home and listen to it on the radio, why do I need to pay for a ticket and go to the seats? Right. So
Yeah.
I understand that logic. But
But there's something about walking into the stadium for the first time, seeing that brilliant green grass, if it's a night game, your favorite player, you've been reading about him for years. And the Cubs had a first baseman named Phil Cabarretta, and he graduated 4 years ahead of me, but he went to a Northside high school. We actually played that high school team one time, and just kind of memories come back like that. And I don't remember very much about playing baseball in high school, but that was one of the memories.
one of the
Hey,
good memories.
real quick, I kind of, obviously, so we did read up some and watch a few things too. From what I hear, you were quite the baseball player, right, Bill?
Mm-hmm.
No, play a little bit, yeah. Pretty quick on my feet. As a matter of fact, I know that as we go through this, we'll talk about motivation and so on. And playing after I graduated, just before I went into the Air Force in 1950,
Paid for service.
I had a Chicago League of all the colleges, Notre Dame and Northwestern and small schools, Wabash, DePaul. So we just all mixed. We all knew each other because we'd played from, time we used to say back then, knee high to a grasshopper. We were just little.
Little.
Yeah. But anyway, the last game of the season, and I had not been caught stealing all season. I had more stolen bases than anybody. I was pretty quick. And I thought, well, why not one more? So I had it beaten. I mean, it was no question they were not going to throw me out. And all of a sudden I heard that ball into the glove, you're out. And I realized that as I got close, I had said to myself, you got this, May, you can let up, go ahead. You can't do that. Not in sports and not in business. If you're going for the jugular, you go for the jugular. You're going for the stolen base, you go for the stolen base. Wasn't needed. It was just unnecessary. It didn't affect the outcome of the game, but it bothered me. And to this day, I can replicate that feeling in my mind. I gave up too soon. I just thought I had it made and I didn't. And that has really followed me and propelled me and really given me some incentive as I've done various businesses through the years. So baseball can teach you some smart things too.
Yeah, it's like you said, make sure you always run through the line.
Exactly.
So you kind of referenced being in the Air Force. Again, thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
Y'all appreciate that. My grandfather was in the Air Force. He was in Vietnam in the Air Force.
Yeah.
But just to step away from ESPN and sports a little bit, this is something I read about you that I thought was pretty interesting. So while you were in the Air Force, it said some of the products that you were like working on or you oversaw was a part of Project Mercury.
Yeah, I don't know about Mercury. I don't remember that specifically. We had a two-team system. We had the really highly technical guys, and then we had the salespeople and sales coordination people. And as you would expect, I'm not the technical guy. I was one of the other ones. But yeah, we had some really interesting things. The biggest thing that I remember is the first computer at I was stationed at Eglin Air Force Base for most of my time. Finished my service at Eglin, but until we were there, I think it was 19. Must have been 54. I guess I went on active duty, and there was this big buzz around the base. We're going to get a computer. What's a computer? People said, "What's a computer?" And an 18-wheeler pulled up, and they had to take out a part of the side of a hangar to fit this computer in. I mean, it took, it was a good size, pretty good size, probably 20 feet square or maybe more. I don't know when it was all assembled. But that was the very first time many of us even heard the word computer. We knew about adding machines, 1, 2, 3 times, whatever. But that was Texas Instruments. They put out those little ones. But this was a big thing. And that, of all the things, I mean, we had some terrible disasters and we lost some pilots and friends and that sort of stuff. But I like to remember the positive things. And that computer story, I'm telling it to you right now, I can still see it in my mind.
Yes, sir. Now, you've obviously kind of went on to the record to talk about how you do have just loved history, specifically American history, going to World War II and whatnot. How's it feel to kind of be a big part of American history self?
Well, it certainly doesn't rival World War II. I remember September 7th, 1941. December was another one. Oh, D-Day. That's the other one I was thinking of. The big milestones, the day of surrender, and all that. What a lot of people don't realize is within 6 months, we raided and bombed Tokyo with Billy Mitchell and special raiders. That was really big news because we didn't have very much good news about the war in those first 6 months. And of course, I was only a 4th or 5th grader, but we'd hear parents talking, and we knew it wasn't a good thing. That's for sure. Wars are no good.
No, they're not. Absolutely not. Kind of stepping, back into ESPN and the sports world. So from I think it was 1963 to the birth of ESPN in 1978. You spend a lot of time working in radio and television doing sports media. What through all of that time did you take with you to start up ESPN?
That there was never enough time to satisfy the number of viewers watching, no matter what you said, no matter how fast you spoke. You had 3.5 minutes because of news then was very strictly structured. It was 11 to 11:30 generally at local time. And the national news with a commercial and a commercial after it. Then the local news, commercial and commercial after it. Then the weather, commercial and commercial after it. Then sports, and then an editorial from the owner of the station. So now that's 5 different people speaking in 30 minutes. All of them have commercials in and with them, and that's another 10 minutes. So when you got to doing sports, wasn't a whole lot of time, because if the newsman ran over a few seconds, I was the last one before we went to the editorial. And because it was done by the president and owner of the station, he never wanted to be delayed, not 5 seconds of delay. So whenever I was going, there was the directors telling you in your ear, 10 seconds. And whatever they told you, 10 seconds, you were done in 10 seconds. That's it. And the trick was to finish and sound relatively coherent, which would, you master that after a while.
I couldn't imagine the pressure that it would take. You know what I mean? Like just having somebody in your ear, like, hey, 10 seconds, hurry up, wrap it up, 10 seconds.
Yeah, you think when they're saying 10 seconds, first thought is, I wonder if I'm behind or ahead or behind. But we all managed to do it. Things were different. We didn't have streaming. Our videotape was a big 2-inch reel and heavy, thick tape. And you had to do a lot of planning just to get in a 30-second interview. We didn't have the portable cameras. We had a movie camera that had to be any news that was going to be on the news at 6 or 7 or 11. It had to happen before 2 in the afternoon because the reporter had to have the film back for processing. We actually had a big photo processing lab in the news, adjacent to the newsroom. And they actually ran film back in those days every day. And one guy would say, it was, today I want 1 SOT and 2 silent, sound on tape and 2 silent. Next day it might be 2 sound on tape and 1, but the total of them can't be more than, so many seconds. And that's the way it was. We thought it was pretty exciting. Today it sounds really terribly funky.
Yes, it does. So obviously, after the Whalers let you go, right? The Whalers.
Mm-hmm. New England.
What was the moment, or I guess what inspired you to do a 24-hour sports cable television?
It kind of relates to what we were just talking about. There's never enough time in a normal newscast. So while I was with the Whalers, there was a TV station in town that was a religious station. Pastor was from someplace in California. And I knew some of the production people, you get to know different folks. And I said, I've got this idea in my mind. I never had enough time to do sports when I was on the air in Springfield. What do you think of doing a half hour of sports, 30 minutes, nothing but sports? And that we went down to the station, the owners agreed, they let us do that. Hilton Hotels came in to sponsor it, a few others. And it was the religious station in Hartford, but for a half hour from 6 to 6:30, Monday through Friday, it was a sports station. And we had every conceivable sport. We had guests. We had one day, Willie Pep, a boxer back in the 30s and 40s, really nice, really a funny guy, tiny welterweight, 135 pounds or something, maybe flyweight, I don't know. Anyway, he said, Bill, the guys are coming to town. We're doing a show here on the such and such. Can we get on your show? It'd be great for your show. So I'm saying, okay, Willie, So Willie shows up and he's got Jersey Joe Walcott, Rocky Graziano, Jake LaMotta. Just went on. We ended up with 6 world champions on this little religious TV station program. And we got just an incredible response. People stopped me on the street. I was going to do a game at the Civic Center with the Whalers, and people come and say, what a great idea that was. We never heard so much sports in a short time. And so that kind of triggered, I was going to do something. And then the word came about cable was doing this and that. And the broadcast people all said, every city or town around us that's looking to franchise cable, we're going to go and speak against it because cable is not good for us, the broadcast people. Well, so now I have people saying, gee, that half hour is pretty good. And these guys are saying, cable's no good for us. There must be a reason. Well, the reason was obviously what happened. Ted Turner and his Superstation down in Atlanta, and then ESPN coming along. The intriguing thing about that is Turner was charging 10 cents per month per subscriber. I thought, well, baseball is a lot more interesting. Football is a lot more interesting. So I'm going to ask the cable industry. My first approaches were a penny a day, 1 penny, 30 cents a month. That's all I asked them. They give you sports around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Nobody will ever buy it. It's way too expensive. 30 cents a month. Turner only charges a dime a month. Well, turns out as time went on, obviously, they started paying. There was a mayor in someplace in Tennessee, Nashville, something, when ESPN salespeople came in and said, we're going to have to raise the rate. He said, well, take it off the air. We're not going to do that. We will never pay you more than a penny a day or whatever we're charging at that point. Next day, he gets to work. He can't even get to his office, can't get into the courthouse where his office is located. So protests, because the word is out, ESPN is going to be dropped and be replaced by something else. But that mayor said, I will never allow them to charge 30 cents a month or whatever it had to be, 40 cents a month. Well, that lasted about 30 seconds. That night they were back on the air, happily. But here's the kicker. A couple of years ago, ESPN had over 100 million households that were being charged $9.95 a month. Think about that. That's a lot of money, which lets them a lot of the things that they do. They do excellent production work because they get the very best equipment and people. Simple formula that if you do it that way.
They got mine and Cody's money, I tell you that much.
That's a pretty high mountain of money, I think. Yeah.
Now kind of just throughout this whole process and your whole journey here, you've obviously worn many hats, you've had very many titles. What was the coolest moment that ESPN's brought you?
The cruelest?
Coolest.
The coolest? I guess going on the air that night at 7 o'clock. We said we we're going to do that. We were standing above what had been a landfill for the city of Bristol. And here we were telling the world we're going to do all these things. And we had a lot of ups and downs. I remember when we ordered the first satellite, and somebody from Scientific Atlanta down in Atlanta came up, and he walked up and he did his measurements, and they look through things, and I'm not an engineer, so how do I know? And he said, who picked this site? Who put this right here? And I said, well, my fault. He said, oh, no. He said, there's some little hills just to the west of here. We had to get our signal from Bristol, Connecticut to the satellite, 22,300 miles above the equator south of Hawaii and back in 1/5 of a second. He said, there's some hills here will shield anything that's going to interfere with your signal, and you're protected on the transmission because you're behind those hills. Wonderful. So I went from, oh boy, to, oh, well, yeah. I guess I did that after all. But that was an interesting discussion. And the night we went on the air, the contractor had hired someone to come up and clean before we went on the air at 7. They fell a little behind. And all the dignitaries were coming in and walking in and saying hello to each other. And we had them from college and professional sports and the Getty people and everything. This guy was told to wash the windows in the main hall, get it all swept out, and people were coming in. He's saying, excuse me. And they're saying, okay. We went down, one of our guys went down and said, we don't need this now. He said, I get paid for finishing this. I'm going to finish it. He had no concept of who the visitors were or what it was a pretty specific moment in cable history. All he knew is he had to get paid. He's going to finish his job, and that's it. And wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, you did mention Getty Oil.
Yep.
If I recall, they were, what was it, the 7th investor, right? That you all presented it to.
Yes, correct. The others all passed it up. Big banks, insurance companies, people with tons of money. Of course, Getty had tons of money too.
Did the first 6 ever come out and say, hey, we were wrong?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was interesting. In one of the early meeting out there, one of the vice presidents, one in charge of our project, said, well, we've got about 12 million cable households today, according to the best information we can get. What do you think it'll be like in, well, let's say the end of the 80s, because obviously we were just getting on the air. What do you think it'll be like? And I said, probably 30 million. And he had something in his hand. I don't know. He went like this and threw it up. What? That can't happen. This is the irresponsibility that you're bringing to this project. I don't know whether we're going to be interested anymore. Well, when they hit 100 million, it was just before he died, and I never did say anything to him afterward, but he knew what had happened. He really relished the explosion, which was great.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Today, I was just going to say, and today, every week when the ratings come out, it's usually Fox News and Business, and then ESPN, and all the other contenders, pretenders, copiers, whatever they were, pretty far down the list. It's just one of those things. People, they really love sports. The politics they can leave aside. Some bad news on, some mountain on the West Coast, if you live in Maine, doesn't make much difference to you. But if your kicker missed a field goal, or better yet, hit the crossbar and fell back and missed, that's a national catastrophe to some people.
Double doink.
Double doink. Yes, it is. I'm sure the Bills fans, Bills Mafia, they could kind of chime in on that on some on some current sports, missing field goals. But Bill, so after everything got going, ESPN was doing great. You were enjoying your time there. Obviously, you had some pretty cool moments there. But when you decided to take a step back in 1980, what was the thought process, and what did you decide, and what helped you decide what to do next?
Well, I don't know about the next, but the next was ordered by Stu Eby. He basically fired me. He said, "We don't want you around Bristol anymore. We'll give you a consulting contract." And they never asked me to do anything. And when it was finally sold in 1984, they still hadn't paid me anything, but Texaco honored the contract and paid me in 1984. And that was fine. You just go from one thing to another. So now by that time with ESPN, it was pretty well known, the Big Ten people. I was from Chicago. I knew a lot of the guys in the Big Ten. I knew them by their names. I had never met them. Bump and Pete Elliott and different people like those folks, Bob Chapius and so on. So one day, it was a Thanksgiving day, and I don't know, it must have been Thanksgiving, I don't know, early 80s. The phone rings, and it's Don Canham, who was a storied athlete and athletic director at the University of Michigan in the Big Ten. And he called and he said, "Rasmussen, get up here. Monday morning, we have to have a meeting to do things. The conference got things all screwed up." Where he came up with the idea that I was going to straighten that all out, I have no idea. I said, "Don," he didn't, "don't Don me, get your, what up here and such and such. We're going to meet at the Hilton at the airport. See you then." Hung up on me. I said, "Okay, I'll go up there." I go up. He said, before he hung up, he said, "We're hiring you. Get up there." So there, and I did work with the Big Ten for the next 4 years. Even to the point of one year we were scheduling Saturday, must have been Saturday, just Saturday afternoon, I guess, football. And Bob Iger, who's now the chairman of Disney, was a number 3 in a 3-man sports department at ABC, because by that time Getty had acquired him and owned everything. And I was in Taipei, Taiwan, scheduling following Saturday's football game with Bob Iger in New York. And the game was we played in Iowa City, Iowa. And I thought then, and many times since then, can you imagine that two guys, thousands of miles apart, scheduling something to happen? We had to change the time. It became 11 a.m. in Iowa City, Iowa. Who's going to believe it? Well, the Big Ten didn't like it. Iowa didn't like it. Purdue, the team they were playing, didn't like it. So we said, "Okay, you just want to not be on television at all? That's okay." Wow, it's amazing how 10 o'clock kickoff, probably the only one that ever happened that year. But it's amazing how they jumped in and said, "It's a pretty good idea. After families can get out in the afternoon," and they made up any excuse.
Mm-hmm.
There were only, when we started ESPN the year before that, in 1978, there were a grand total of 25 college football games on television from all the network stations. 25 games. This past season, ESPN did 42 bowl games. It's crazy.
Oh, sorry.
But
I think back then, like, that's why a big part of the country was like Notre Dame fans, right? Because they were the only team showed on NBC.
Yep. Well, I don't know if they started with NBC, but they were on NBC. A couple of different ones were on CBS. ABC had a couple of games. ABC had signed a contract, put all their money in one game a year, the Rose Bowl. But, that's one game here, 3 games there. As a matter of fact, on that opening night show that we talked about right at the beginning, the president of the NCAA was at that time, it rotated every 2 years, I guess. It was Bill Flynn, the athletic director at Boston College. And Lee Leonard, the host of that first show, said, "What about, now we've got all of this time available, what about more football games? What do you think about bowl games?" And Bill, no, he didn't say that. He said, and he was very cerebral almost, and said, "We've got 12, we're up to 12 bowl games now. We have a wonderful relationship. Well, I'm not sure we're going to want to tinker with that. This is working out pretty well." Well, now instead of spending $13 million for a game, they spend $130 million or whatever. It's it's hard to get people who are entrenched, especially. I don't know if there's an age limit or a saturation limit where they tip past some point and everything in the past is fine. We don't want to mess with it anymore. Just we enjoy it just the way it is. Let me live out the rest of my days this way. It doesn't now it changes from between the basketball, NHL and NBA and so on. They change players this week, between boy, it's kind of crazy, but it's progress. Everything keeps getting a little bit better and so on. And now ESPN pays billions for rights fees. And of course, they have now ESPN Plus and 5 other networks, news, and it just goes on and on. I saw an interesting statistic just today, maybe you two caught it as well. The women's basketball game one day last week,
Yes.
attendance surpassed the NBA game, not attendance, ratings. Surpassed one that had the Boston Celtics of all people playing in it, and they passed.
I think that game was Ohio State versus Iowa with the
Everyone would.
Was it a different one?
Oh no, I don't know. I don't remember the two teams, but I remember reading that because when we started ESPN, there was a lady named Christine. She was in effect the women's AD at Iowa, and she said we'll play at any time of the day or night if ESPN will just give us a platform. So we put a game at Purdue on, and there were more people on the bench than there were in attendance. Here they are with this kind of news, outdrawing even the NBA. It's great. It's a phenomenal story.
And with that being said, like you said, like the first time they were shown, there were more players on the bench than in the stand. That game between Iowa and Ohio State broke the single season women's basketball attendance record with 18,000 people.
Yeah, crazy. Things
It's
are
crazy.
Yeah, been sending chills up and down me. And I tell you, down in Florida, it's not getting cold. These memories are stirring up. That's good.
That's what we're trying to do.
You're doing a great job. I've thought about a lot of these things for a long time. Fortunately, I have a decent memory.
Good.
Yes, sir. Now, obviously, you're a pretty good baseball guy too. You've thrown first pitches at Fenway, Citizen Bank Park. What's your favorite ballpark that you've been able to just go to?
I've also done what is it in Seattle? They just changed the name of it last couple of years ago. Whatever. It used to be Safeway something or anyway. Got to do Yankee Stadium before I quit here. I might be the oldest rookie to throw though. I've got 91 in the bank and I'm working on my 92nd birthday coming up this year. But
Yes,
I'm glad you guys. But anyway, Fenway Park by far because of the Yankee Red Sox rivalry, and it was a Yankee at Boston game that I did that. And I don't know if you folks have been to the ESPNfounder.com site, and there's a bunch of photos in there, and everybody wanted to go to that game in Boston. We had quite a representation there. Even the chairman, Jimmy Pitaro, was there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I couldn't imagine just the atmosphere in that place must have been absolutely electric.
Electric. Well, and in Philadelphia, in Washington, in Seattle, they had a place to warm up under the stands. They didn't have that in Fenway Park. I said, I got to throw a couple of pitches, and Jimmy wanted to throw a couple. I said, oh yeah, and they, walk right down to where the Red Sox dugout is, stand out in front of the dugout, and all these ball players are right here, as far away from, just out of the line of fire, basically. And Alex Cora was, there, and everybody is, and the fans are coming down to the, it's what fun it must be to be a major leaguer. I get a bigger crowd to throw out a first pitch than I ever played in front of. So that was kind of fun. And look up on the big scoreboard. That's pretty cool stuff. Yes. Even though the pitch was terrible. Philadelphia pitch was a strike to the Philly Fanatic. Their what do you call that guy? I'm not sure what to call him, but anybody he came up to talk to me. So it's a guy. I didn't know he's walking around in his feathers and all that stuff. And he said, they didn't tell me you could really throw the ball. And because I had practice for that one. And we had a lot of fun.
Yes, sir.
It's
I'm
just,
actually uh across the board Philly fan. So just hearing you talk about the old fanatic, that was like me 3 years old. I had a giant, probably 2 foot plush thing that went with me everywhere. The big nose and everything. Yes,
there
sir.
was a lawsuit recently about that. Somebody sued about the words Philly
Yeah.
fanatic. Is there no more Philly fanatic?
So they made slight alterations to it pretty much to just avoid a more of an exact duplicate.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
we can go to Philadelphia then. They're good guys.
Yes, sir. And I actually believe you threw a first pitch the year after they won the World Series too. So that had to be a pretty cool little cherry on top with it.
Yeah, it's fun, because of my interest in baseball. It's just kind of fun to be around the ballpark and just walk around,
Mm-hmm.
talk to different people and see, and I did it. I was at Yankee Stadium one time for a Red Sox game, of course. They're really the only good games to go see, I think. That's not literally true, but it's, get the mindset. And I was doing an interview for some magazine. So the reporter had a deadline. I said, I'm gonna be at the ballpark. I'll talk to you there all night if you want. Come on. So I watching the Yankees, and David Ortiz hit a home run. Brett Gardner hit a home run for the Yankees. I remember those 2 home runs and a magazine interview. That visit kind of strange, but it's okay. We just
Sure.
go and keep on going.
So
Hopefully to
our bread and butter is high school sports in Southern West Virginia. That's where we're both from. That's our platform, is just providing coverage for the local high school areas. Now, if there was just a high school kid who was kind of struggling to take that leap for just whatever, so be it, what would you say to him?
I use this frequently, ABC, NBC. Always be curious, never be complacent. If you aren't really 100% behind what you want to do, the idea you want to sell, the job you're looking for, if you're not confident and so on, why would either you or me, anybody else hire them? Why would they listen to your proposition? Why would they, there are just so many people who they just don't have the opportunity to finally get into the business world and do whatever they want. And business, by the way, in my case, is not only working in an office and sitting at a desk, it's sports. And the way they're making money these days, the way the clubs make money and the promotions and the success of selling across the board from all the major sports. It's staggering. But I think they're going to be around for a long time. They're going to outlast me, but my goal is to be there for ESPN's 50th anniversary. That's only 5 more years after this year. So got a pretty good shot at making it, I think. If I can keep my hair growth under control.
Yes,
It's okay. You can laugh. I say it all.
So yeah, making it to that 50th anniversary, I mean, that's got to be a pretty big goal for you. As a man who has almost achieved everything, right? What are some goals that you have now?
Well, as you probably know, I have Parkinson's disease. I was diagnosed several years ago, and there is no cure. You just go downhill. Sometimes, if you could see me, sometimes my hand shakes, and involuntarily, you just don't know what happened. Your fingers. Then balance becomes an issue. It's a slow downhill slide. But there are ways that you can do the slow downhill slide and have some fun and do some good things. So I talked to the Michael J. Fox Foundation, the American Parkinson's Disease Association, and I am an ambassador for more study on what's happening in Parkinson's. There is no cure, and nobody's spending a whole lot of money. The government's not spending a lot of money on finding this cure. So I said, I'll do that. And then as I started to feel the full effect of what happens, I've got a little mini exercise program that I go through every day, and you start from your toes and you work up to your nose, and you can do it fast or slow. It doesn't make any difference. But one of the problems is you start to freeze.
Mhm.
You're talking to someone and suddenly their hand won't do anything, or it shakes violently. It's really weird.
That's weird.
So what I try to do is be happy, and I do a lot of Zoom meetings around the country. They call them support meetings, group support meetings. Some of us, they just want to, we just have a conversation. Some of them are very specific, and we can show them what a simple exercise routine helps in balance. As it's really, I fell back in June, as a matter of fact, and hit my head on the tile. Not a good thing to do. You're off to the hospital. You have to go have a CAT scan every time that happens. So because who knows? So I became a positive ambassador and stay as healthy as you can, as long as you can. And here are some ways to help you do that. If it's waking up in the morning. And one of the things, I actually had a conversation with ESPN's president about this. When you wake up in the morning with Parkinson's or not with Parkinson's, make your first conscious thought of the day a positive one. Don't say, "Oh, I got to see Joe tonight." Terrible. No. Wake up, be positive. Stretch your toe, wiggle your toes, stretch your legs, whatever, and start the day off on a, "Okay, world, look out, here I come" attitude, rather than, "Oh, I have to meet Cody today," or whatever. That's a waste of time to say that. Be positive. So at the APDA, I think, I don't know exactly, they call me in these books, but it's something about intentional optimism. And that's what I talk about, intentional optimism. But they've come up with a joke name for me. It's all you ever talk about. Yeah, well, that's what we're supposed to do. Why not be positive? You only have two choices. You're either doing something positive, or you're doing, well, maybe three, you just don't do anything. But I would count that as a negative. So I'm really going to get up and do it, get up and go, or suffer the consequences. That's terrible to say. So I enjoy that. I've met a lot of people doing those kinds of things. When you talk to people in Montana or Oregon or Sarasota, Florida, or whatever, it's really interesting, and you can see. I've been part of one group in particular. I've been part of probably now for 4 years, and you can see the people when they start to have the problems, and some of them now have just disappeared. They're gone. It's tough. Parkinson's, we could do anything to help find a cure for Parkinson's, it would be unbelievable. So that's what I occupy myself with now. I have to go to the VA hospital every now and then to get pills or shots or exams or whatever, or wheels, they'll give you a little, it's like a cart you can stand up with and so on. So sports are fun, still love them, but I can't do the sports anymore. So we can help with Parkinson's. That's wonderful.
Absolutely, that is fantastic. That's a wonderful goal to have. Trying to put your best foot forward to help with Parkinson's like that. That is a great goal to have. And on the note, that first thought you have in the morning being a positive thought, me and Fred are both in sales, so we can relate to that, because every time we walk out the door, we sell cars. The first thing we have to think is a positive thought. You can't go up to somebody trying to sell them something, just maybe I'll get it.
You better be positive, yeah.
So yeah, we relate to that, definitely.
It's like when we talked to Getty at the beginning, a lot of people say to me, sometimes depending on where I'm speaking, I'll say, before you even ask, it comes up about, how did you finance ESPN? I said, oh, that's easy. $9,000 credit card cash advance, $145 million from Getty Oil.
Dude, every time.
And people go, what did you just say? Kind of like your reaction just there, Cody. Huh? What was that? But that's what really happened by the end of the day. It just took us a few steps to get there. And, if you wake up with a happy psyche, you're gonna have a good day. For the most part, I believe that.
Yes, sir.
sometimes in late afternoon, I'm talking now about the Parkinson side, you kind of run out of gas and then you have to get regenerated to walk over and sit down in your favorite chair and watch TV for a while before you go to bed. But and the medications, people have tried so many different medications, and there's only one that still works, and it's been working. The most effective medication to have today was invented in the 1960s. So if you can imagine, that's what, 40, 80 years ago, something like that.
Mhm.
That's that has to change, and I'm sure it will sometime. I won't be here probably, but that's fine. I'll be someplace playing third base. That's what I'm gonna do. I'll play third base for some senior team somewhere.
Yes, sir. Now, so to touch back up onto the Parkinson's, your entire story has just been you being this entrepreneur, relentless effort, and just passion. Since being diagnosed in 2014, has Parkinson's affected your ability to still be that entrepreneur doing
Oh,
whatever you?
And it has emboldened me, if anything else, because I don't have that much time left. I'm saying that I'm not being doom and gloom. I'm not saying that way.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how much time we have. You do things, so why not do positive things? And so if I can help Parkinson's and we talk, am I allowed to do this with these two things?
Yes.
Please do. Yes, sir.
There's one, this other one, this is a rogue copy. I don't have. If you go to Amazon, you can see Sports Junkies Reader. Boy, this is tough for me to figure out how you show this. There we go. The birth of ESPN. But if you go to Amazon and look up either one of those ESPN books, it tells you the full story. And I don't know, my neurologist, the guy who told me in 2014 that I had Parkinson's, said, here's one way to combat that. Every day, 7 days a week, get up and write a page, pick up your pencil or pen, write a page, a story or whatever. And so I started down that and ended up writing a book and on that type of instruction that he gave me of medication instead of medication. So you can always find something good to think. And you have to remember in here, your whole world, you can go to any part of the world if you want to think about a baseball game or the World Super Bowl or the whatever, Kentucky Derby. All of my examples are sports, but I'm sure there are others that are not sports. As sports, everybody seems to understand that. So we'll just keep doing it. That's, intentional optimism is what the American Parkinson's Association has called me. I'm a dedicated intentional optimist, and it seems to work very well.
Absolutely. I understand that mental motivation with sitting down, page in front of you, and just writing.
Yep. And today you might write a page. Tomorrow you might have difficulty getting a paragraph. The next day you might have, who knows? You might write a chapter, 20, 25 pages, just like that. We have yesterday and today and tomorrow. Can't go back and get yesterday. We're enjoying today, and who knows what's coming tomorrow. So live every second the way you want to do positive things and so on. Every now and then you feel my tongue getting tangled and a little bit of that's the Parkinson's thing as well. You're talking in a word that you know very well. Suddenly it's not in your vocabulary for the next 30 seconds or 10 seconds. And it's just, but I still speak to groups around the country, and that's staying busy is probably the best thing you can do with Parkinson's, as long as you do it safely.
Yes, sir. Now, so obviously Kevin Sizemore was our connection to you. Big shout out to, Kevin Sizemore. We did have a chance to listen to your interview with his wife and kind of touch up some on Parkinson's some there.
Health Interrupted?
Yes, sir. That's the one. You did reference just how important it is obviously for you to get your physical exercise, but also your mental. exercise?
Oh, absolutely. I think the mental exercise and the physical, I don't know, from a licensed, authorized, somebody who really knows what they're talking about. I don't know whether the mental or the physical one is more important than the other or not. But you have to exercise both of them. And I used to walk 5 miles, then it was 4 miles, then it was 3 miles. And now I can't walk without my wheels. So, but I want to do, Cody, if you do 10 laps, I'm going to do 11. I'm going to try to do 11. I might only get to 6,
Mhm.
but you push yourself. You
Mhm.
try, you commit to doing the best you can be. Sometimes it gets ugly with Parkinson's, but you fight your way through it, and that's the best you can do.
Well, Bill, even with Will, I think you would make a pretty solid third baseman still, right?
I don't know. I remember we were playing in some team this is way back, and the guy hit a sharp ground ball right down the third base line. One of those that's right on the, just over the bag. And I moved over and I backhanded it and threw the guy out. And I would guess the young man coaching third base, I don't remember what league we were in, but he said, "Boy, how does an old guy like you're really lucky." And I wouldn't, ordinarily, I wouldn't even respond to that. But I said, "I've been doing that since before you were born. It's easy." Yeah. I shouldn't have done. I feel a little guilty. I don't even know who it was, but I feel telling that story now. But you watch these ball players, major league level, they are just incredible in some of the things that they can do. And so that's what makes baseball pretty special for me.
Yes, sir. And in this current age and day, like you have guys like Aaron Judge who just can hit
Oh,
a homer. Mookie Betts can literally climb a wall, like
oh,
insanity, insanity.
yeah,
Cody.
there, there are some great. The pitchers are the ones that are surprising me. Many of them now have Tommy John surgery and they come back. Some of them are better, some of them are not. Some of them never get back, but they all are striving to be better if they can possibly do it. So, and reaching the major leagues. I don't know if you guys follow the prospect list,
A
the
little bit, a little bit.
they sign a guy in his high school year, 2018, then he goes to this league, and then he goes to that development league, and then that development, and then he finally gets to play in his first minor league game. And that turns out to be well, and then he gets a major league tryout, but he's like on a doubleheader day, he's number 26 out of 26. Even though they're playing doubleheader, he may not see action. Most of them
Mhm.
don't, but it's it's an amazing world that we live in. We ought to all take advantage of all the good things. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I wish that everybody who has Parkinson's would do some extra pressure and see if we can help push someone to help us all find a goal to solve it. But all we can do is keep working at it. And Michael J. Fox's group is amazing. Well, they all are. The Parkinson Foundation, APDA, and so on. They all are. And whatever little help they derive from me telling a joke or speaking to a group, I'm happy to do it.
So, Bill, with my last question, of course,
For now.
we could do this for hours.
Hours.
But for me personally, and I know Fred, this is on his mind as well. We're kind of trying to replicate what you do. Somebody told me once upon a time, find somebody successful that you look up to and emulate what they did. What advice would you give to me and Fred and other people in the sports media world who are just trying to build, trying to keep going, and in a field that's so saturated now? What kind of, I guess, leg up or advice could you give us?
Well, I think it'd be, as I mentioned before, you have to stay curious always. I don't even really, I don't know anything about the internet. It's not my generation's favorite thing. But there are some interesting things pop up, and you read about them, and what about this? What about that? If you don't ask a question, if you don't go and you might say, well, I really want to play third base. You know, realistically, you can't, but what can you do if you work at it? What are the lessons you're going to learn by trying? And there's no shame in failing. And if something goes wrong and the business goes south, it's okay. As long as you've done everything you can to make it work and do it legally, you're going to be fine. But I use those 6 letters, always be curious and never be complacent forever.
Yeah.
And that's what, you say you're walking into the front door of whatever building and have an interview. If you walk in shaking in your boots, that's okay. But don't let the other people see your boots shaking in your boots. So that's, it's really simple. And, I've been blessed with pretty good health. I mean, Parkinson's notwithstanding, since they don't have a cure for it. But 91 is okay.
That's a blessing within itself. Yes, sir. You got the good genes right there, don't you?
Yeah, and 100 would be cool. That'd be pretty cool. 50th anniversary in 2029. 79 to 29, yeah.
We got 5 years. 5 years.
Well, I'll just keep on trying and go from there. And, if somebody had, I couldn't even imagine what it might be, but if it sounded intriguing and interesting, and I could figure a way to do it with, computers and Parkinson's and all that stuff, I'd give it a try. I'm always ready to try. I don't want to do it to anyone's detriment. I never would do that, but just got to keep on keeping on, as we used to say.
Yes, sir.
Now, Bill, my last question. Granted, you've been in the upper echelon of just sports personnel for relatively the past 50 years. At heart, you're still a sports fan.
Oh, yeah.
Was there ever one moment or just one person where you just had a fanboy and be like, oh my goodness, that's so-and-so?
That's a pretty difficult question. I mean, Red Auerbach and I had several conversations, and funny story with him. And we were just a little independent station. He had to deal with some production company in New York, and they insulted one of his staff the day of a game at 10 in the morning. And he called our station manager. We were out in Springfield, Massachusetts, and he said, I just threw those guys out on their I need somebody to come up here tonight and do this, and hope you have a good announcer, and let's go. And so we all jumped in the car. They got the remote truck rolling. First thing we did is went in and met with Red. And he said, okay, that's fine. Oh, hi, Bill, Joe, Cody, whatever, we just keep on going. And he said, let's talk about rights fees. What do you think? I don't know, Boston's worth? Oh, it's probably $1,500. Maybe. Okay. What do you think? And he went around Brockton, Massachusetts. $500 is more than they can afford, but if they can give it, then that'd be great. And he said at the end, by the way, have him make the checks out to Arnold E. Auerbach. There was no such a thing, and this is in the mid-'60s. There were no big network contracts for the NBA playoffs. These are the playoffs. And I got to do the first game was with Cincinnati, and first round was Cincinnati. Next round was Philadelphia, the Warriors with Wilt Chamberlain and all those guys. And the last one was with the Los Angeles team with Jerry West. And an enduring picture is Red Auerbach sitting in that game. They had a 10-point lead with probably a minute to go, and Jerry West scored. Now it's down to 8. The inbounds pass intercepted by Jerry West, scored again. Threw it down. This next time, threw it over his head toward midcourt, and Boston player just fumbled the toss. I don't know if they were getting nervous or what. One of the other guys I can see him now, one of the Jerry West's teammates kind of slapped at the ball. One hopped to Jerry, now it's 4 points, 4-point lead, whereas seconds ago it was a 10-point lead. And on the hardwood floor at the Boston Garden, Red Auerbach puts his cigar down and stamps it out, grinding it out on the floor. And I'm thinking, I'm just describing what he's doing, but I'm thinking, this can't be good. You imagine that. But there's so many moments. If we we're here and just sitting around talking, we could talk about some of the interesting things that have happened in the life of baseball over time. It's baseball, all sports, really. And talking to you guys is great because you're obviously fans. This has been a lot of fun for me.
Oh,
Absolutely.
it's hard to articulate words to just, for one, Bill, take out fresh off the clock, which is what our show is called. Take off my dress shirt, hold on there. Not really, not really. From just a sports fan, I won't give too much of a background, but really just sports trying to save my life. And I honestly believe that, Bill, you had a direct impact on not just my life, but just millions of lives across the globe. And I just want to say for every sports fan across the planet, Bill, thank you for what you've done and the leaps that you have taken that had no guarantees.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say that. I hope everything's fine now, I hope.
Oh, I'm still talking to the founder of ESPN, Bill. Listen, I couldn't be in a better mood, to be honest with you, man.
That's great.
Absolutely.
One last little nugget of knowledge that you can always have some fun with somebody and ask them where ESPN started. Almost everybody today would say Bristol, Connecticut, right? We actually started in our next door neighbor, Plainville, Connecticut. And when we announced what our plans were, they called an emergency meeting and told us instantly that we were not allowed to put a satellite uplink in the city limits of Plainville. They were against it because somebody running for mayor said, every day when you drive down Middle Street in front of that satellite dish that they would put up, you'll find a pile of dead birds. Council believed him. We had to move out of Plainville.
And the rest was history. The rest was
The
history.
redevelopment director was saying, you know what, maybe we're going to try and sell them this. And we bought the first piece of land in Bristol for $18,000. And the rest is history. That's where the network started, on that acre. But anyway, we could talk from now till midnight. Yeah.
Absolutely. We absolutely could. One day I'm going to hold you two sitting down and just picking your brain.
Literally.
Right? Sitting down. Absolutely. So Bill, again, from me, Fred, from everybody that's going to watch, thank you. I as a kid and as an adult, I fall asleep watching ESPN Sports Center. This is one of those surreal moments for us. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Rasmussen.
Thank you, guys.
Bill, I know we're not in person. I do just want to shake your hand, man. I just want to shake your hand, sir. Thank you, man.
I have a great grandson who does that on FaceTime. I'll say high five, and he runs up to the phone and gives me that high five. There you go. It's great. Thanks, guys. Have a great evening. And
Pleasure meeting you, sir.
who knows? We may talk again soon. Who knows?
Hopefully, yes, sir.
Great idea, Paul.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We will maybe see, everybody stay tuned. The 50th birthday of ESPN is coming up, and you will see Bill Rasmussen there in person, guys.
Yep, that'd be a great idea. We can schedule that right now. But you'll have to remember it because my memory's going, unless I know it's.
Hey, we'll hold you to it.
Had a great evening. Okay. Great evening. Thanks very much.
Have a good one, Bill.
Have a good evening.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen,